Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me, Josh Mansfield, on this Tuesday, October 1st. It is October. October is here. The final month of the Pro Tour season is upon us. We have just 2 tournaments to go. Josh, are you mentally prepared for the end of the season?
I think so, man. If USDGC was this week, I don't know, man. I don't know if I could have done it. But the week off, I think, is everything I need. I will be ready to go for USDGC. It's crazy. September flew by, and that's just like in my life in general. I can't believe we're already in October.
This is crazy. USDGC next week starts Thursday. Of course, we'll also throw pink. Not a major. Feels like a major. We know this. But we're going to get to all that. We're going to talk USDGC. We're going to have Jonathan Poole on the show. We got a lot of stuff to break down over the next 4 shows before we get into USDGC, because we got the Pro Tour stuff all finalized at this point, the championship standings. We're going to talk about that on Thursday. But we cannot go anywhere without talking about what an amazing tournament we just had this past weekend. MVP Open, really delivering maybe the best pair of final rounds in both divisions that we've had in quite a long time. I'm having a hard time going back in my mind to a better pair, right? We have had great moments, right? European Open, did FPO really live up to the expectations? Maybe not. I mean, I know Chris made the crazy comeback. MPO was electric.
I get the fashion in which it happened, but you can't call the biggest comeback in FPO history
with like 2 total collapses, right? I mean,
right.
I don't know that, and then obviously Worlds MPO is pretty sleepy.
Yeah,
FPO was pretty amazing, but like this one, truly 2 great endings and people playing well. That's the other thing. People playing well, not like disaster collapse. Though there were some of those in MPO. So let's talk about what happened in MPO. James Proctor takes it down. He avoids a playoff with Paul Macbeth, who came out of nowhere in the final round to post a 28 down final score. He briefly held the lead, and James Proctor had to hit a drop zone putt on 18 to avoid a playoff, and he jammed it again for the second round in a row in front of a massive gallery. It was so sick. Josh, I mean, James Proctor got his second Pro Tour win of the season, but let's be honest, this was his first legitimate Pro Tour win of his career. Someone who's been a great player for a long time and gets one of the biggest wins you can get on tour.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's exactly it. I mean, if you're going to pick one to win, this has to be near the top. And one thing that I've talked about, or we talked about on the Rapid Reacts, of course, we're doing a breakdown here, but you still have an excellent show for Rapid Reacts. Had a pretty long one on Sunday night.
Yeah, we went like an hour 10, I think.
Yeah, go check it out, because that will also mean that you get Rapid Reacts every night of USDGC. So,
yeah, it's a great time to sign up. discgolf.ultraworld.com/subscribe.
But what I had mentioned on the Reacts, and I still think is just something that's so true, is like James Proctor was like the regional weekend warrior, right? We went West Coast, and you always were like, oh, should I stick James Proctor on my podium? Like, he's pretty good, but he just never played quite enough in order to, I guess, be a favorite, right? And at the very top, 2019, for example, it looks like he played 2 DGPT events. So, he then makes a decision post-COVID to go full-time and comes out here and gets, what is a very much historic win at MVP Open, gets to do the pond jump and does it with a spectacular run from hole 8 to hole 17, going 8 down, in order to really give himself a great position while the rest of his card was starting to falter.
Yeah, it was a wild final round. I mean, I have, it's one of those rounds where it's hard to keep track of who could have won. but like Gannon Burr, Aaron Gossage, Ricky Wysocki, Gavin Babcock, suddenly Paul Macbeth, after birdieing 6 in a row to close the round, like all of those guys at least were within the conversation. I think, timing wise, maybe Parker Welk never really crossed into that threshold, but it wasn't that far off. I mean, he only finished 3 shots off the lead ultimately. One or two things go differently. Doesn't bogey 14, maybe. Who else, John? I mean, like, maybe that's the list, but it was a lot of guys who could have won this tournament.
Yeah. It really, and it was, across 3 cards, as you highlight there, right? We were cutting from card to card to card, and I think that's part of also what made it so engaging. This is the advantage of live coverage, is you're sitting here watching and you're doing the math in real time. Like, okay, Paul Macbeth is 3 or 4 holes ahead, 5 holes ahead of James Proctor and Gannon Burr and Ricky. And you're watching him birdie, and you're like, okay, what, he can get to 28. Is that going to be enough? And so even after like Rick and Gannon start to slow down, like watching Paul in the real time and where he's finishing is what's really keeping you kind of engaged and setting the mark. Really just an excellent tournament coverage as well. DGN did a great job on the storylines there.
Yeah, I thought DGN was really strong this week. I mean, the signal quality from MVP is a little shaky at times in the woods, but they did a nice job covering the Tour Championship bubble and where things were at that point. While also covering the top end of the tournament and who's going to win it. And look, I mean, this is just like what you want a final round of disc golf to be. A lot of guys playing good disc golf. I mean, the round ratings for everybody in the top 10, the worst round rating was 1029. And you had a 1084 from Macbeth, a couple 1060s from Corey and James. Like, this was high-level disc golf, and that was the story of the whole week.
Yeah.
Like, this was a really high quality level of play. I think the round 2 coverage of MPO was as fun as I've had watching disc golf in an early round this whole season.
That one was
great.
Spectacular.
It was great. 23
Charlie,
under was the winning score last year, by the way.
Dang it. I literally just pulled that. I was going to do it as a trivia question for you.
Sorry, I looked it up. James shoots a 29. Now, obviously, there were a couple of new holes, a couple of new pin positions, so it's not totally comparable. But I do think it represents a higher level of play because some of the hole changes made them harder, not easier.
Right. Well, and remember, in rounds 1 and 2, they changed the par 4 hole 1 to a par 3, and they changed the the par 4 to the par 5. So it actually does adjust down for par.
Oh, par-wise, yes.
Par-wise, it does adjust correctly. And so, I mean, you can argue with like true level of difficulty, but the par is actually comparable across the two tournaments.
Well, right, we're talking about the level under par, so that's not, you're making a similar comparison there.
Right.
But, some of the holes got a little bit harder. Like,
sure.
Hole 6 was harder. And so I just think it represents, I mean, you had everybody in the top 10 shot at least 23 down, which was last year's winning score. So I just feel like this was a really strong level of play that made watching extremely fun. So you have a great course, right?
Yep.
You have a great level of play. You have a tremendous gallery bringing energy to the broadcast. And it just meant that we had a wonderful viewing experience, I thought. And hey, like, a lot of guys had a chance.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Aaron Gossage might finally get one, Josh. And it wasn't the putter that let him down, really. We talked about this a bunch in the reacts. Like, he didn't putt great on the weekend, but in the final round, the putting was not the thing, right? This was not the world's collapse against Macbeth, where he was missing 15 footers into the cage. He putted fine. It was the drives and approach shots that sometimes left him a little bit cold. And ultimately finishes 2 shots off the lead. And like, if he sticks the island on 18 and gets the birdie, then maybe he's in a playoff with Proctor.
Yeah, very, very different story. Rick really felt like he was the guy who was going to win this tournament on hole 8.
After the 4 for 5 start, I totally agree.
Yep, 4 for 5, and then hole 8, Gannon double bogeys and Rick birdies.
Yep.
And you're like, all right, there it is.
I mean, it felt like it was going to be a Rick versus Gannon battle again early in the round.
It did. And Gannon just didn't feel quite like very sharp, and Rick was looking real good. And then Ricky just went cold after hole 11, and kind of tries to scrape back a couple of strokes in the end, and does birdie 17 and 18, but it just didn't matter at that point. He was too far gone. It just, his drive. PDGA has it marked that he missed the fairway, including an OB stroke on 14, all the way from hole 12 to hole 16. Like, just could not hit the fairway. Misses a circle 1 putt. Everything went wrong for Cole, or everything went wrong. Rick went cold from holes 12 to 16, and that's what took him out of this tournament.
It's an unforgiving course.
Yeah.
If you miss the line, or you hit an early tree, you have no chance to get a birdie. There's no like backdoor bailout birdie opportunities. Like, you're legitimately scrambling to save a par.
Yeah.
And so it's just got a lot of guys had great rounds at some point this weekend. Rick shot an 8. So let's see. Ricky's scores over the rounds: 7 down round 1, 8 down round 2, 8 down round 3, and 4 down round 4. And if he shoots another 7 or 8, he wins his tournament. It is literally that simple. But pressure. How about James? And that's why it feels right to me that James Proctor, a tremendous putter, is the one who is able to survive the gauntlet. And it's so interesting because if you remember back, Josh, I think was it 2 years ago? Was it 2 years ago now? No, I guess it was just last season. It feels like 2 years ago because so much of a season has elapsed at this point.
Sure.
Last year, James Proctor was near the top of the leaderboard every week. I mean, he was fantastic. But when we were in final rounds and he was in contention to win, it seemed like he just didn't have it.
Yep.
And obviously he had a slow start this year, but he was planning a wedding.
It's the wedding, man.
Post-wedding Proctor. I mean, like,
that's right.
It's been a different story. We're going to have James on with us in just a moment, and we're going to talk about his weekend and the win and how it compares to his previous win over in Europe, and maybe a little bit about the wedding and how much that affected his game, if he thinks it does. So we'll get to that. But, he didn't really come out to a great start in this round. He was only 1 under through 7.
Yep.
And then he was phenomenal and barely missed a putt. I think he didn't cash in a 50-footer on the 12th, but otherwise made all his putts, including, of course, the biggest one of the round. Maybe the putt of the year, arguably. Through the trees, from the drop zone, ultra pressure. Paul McBeth's literally standing there salivating, waiting to like slay you on the playoff holes. It was going to be an aggregate playoff too, by the way.
I know.
Oh, I'm kind of sad we didn't get it, but what a sick moment. And James knew that putt was not even halfway there, and he was fist in the air. I just won this thing.
Yeah.
And I think that being really confident with the putter is a critical part of being able to withstand the pressure of these final rounds. And clearly James brought it.
And that's one thing that we've talked about when you talk about people who are able to close tournaments. You can look at just putting numbers in a vacuum, and you can look at, the fact that James Proctor went 10 of 10, and Aaron Gossage, for example, went 13 of 14. But reverse those roles and put Aaron on that, on that drop zone on hole 18, required to make a putt to win. And I think it's just a whole nother ball game and question mark, because like that's the thing that's haunted him. Being able to putt when it matters. I mean, that is what has defined McBeth, right? It's not just that McBeth is always the best putter. It's that McBeth is the best putter when everything is on the line. And that to me is it's the higher tier of putting, right? You can be a good putter but start to falter when it matters. The best players in the world, the ones who really define themselves, are those who make it when everything's on the line. James Proctor did that this weekend, and what a spectacular putt it was.
This was James Proctor's second highest event rating ever. Top, can you guess? Can you guess what his highest rated event was? I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
He didn't win.
Wow, it's kind of... I'm going to say it probably was like... I'm going to say it was a European event last year when Paul beat him.
That's the
one. But he
one.
had a great tournament.
PCS.
Yeah. PCS
Open.
Okay.
Macbeth went crazy.
Yeah.
He finished second, shooting 1061 rating.
So he took a couple seconds to Paul in that year, and I figure that probably was it.
Here's this little stat for you.
Okay.
James Proctor's total PDGA cash earnings from 2008 to 2022, $68,500. His PDGA cash in the last 2 years, 2023, 2024, $78,000. That's crazy.
That's crazy. And that includes
basically when he went on tour.
Yeah.
Full time. So that's part of it, of course.
Right.
And part of it is purses, and part of it is winning a $15,000 purse at MVP Open. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. That's good for James. I mean, and that it's also nice. I mean, he's flew back to the West Coast, and an extra 15K is always nice to do that.
Is this wow? I'm just taking a look at some of the stats from the weekend that I hadn't really looked closely at.
Mm-hmm.
Since his first win on tour in 2022 at the USDGC, Gannon Buhr has not lost when he is within one stroke of the lead or better going into the final round. He's won 11 times in that stretch, and this makes it the first time that since ever.
Since he won
on tour. Because he was probably within a stroke when he didn't win Vegas against Drew Gibson, although I'd have to go back and look. That is crazy. Because that's the thing, right? We saw Gannon play bad and then kind of catch back up in round 3, and you're thinking, okay, here comes Gannon again. And then he starts out pretty good, and then you're like, all right, here comes Gannon again. And then he takes that brutal double bogey when he skipped out of bounds off the rock wall on the 6th, and you're cooked.
No, that was the single bogey, hole 8, the island hole.
Oh, that was that was a birdogey. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he had the birdogey on 6.
That was
because he was going to get 2 strokes on Rick.
Right.
And missed it, and then gets the same score as Rick, and you're like, oh, okay, he's still got some work to do. And then hole 8, he misses the island, and then sails his putt over the basket and goes OB again. So, and that was like the nail in the coffin.
For sure, it was. Well, it was quite the weekend. We're going to take a break right now. On the other side, James Proctor will join us for the very first time on the Upshot. Stay with us. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Well, the standard and deluxe Rufuses are going to be winding down, and moving forward, Pound is only going to be offering the double convertible version of the Rufus. But to use up the last of the deluxe Rufus fabric, Pound is releasing several small runs of the super deluxe Rufus. They have an additional upper detail pocket, upgraded mesh and shoulder pads, and 2-tone zippers. You got to grab one of these before they're gone for good. So go to pounddiscgolf.com and grab yourself a super deluxe Rufus today.
The aches and pains of age can creep up on you quickly. That doesn't mean you have to suffer in silence. Our sponsor, Sunset Lake CBD, has just what you need to soothe your aching joints and calm down those sore spots. As hemp farmers, the folks at Sunset Lake know what it means to be sore after a long day in the fields. That's why they make their products with top shelf ingredients, including CBD they grow themselves. From salves and rubs to gummies and tinctures, Sunset Lake CBD has everything you need to find relief at the end of your day. So if you're out for a long day of disc golf, and I've had this myself, you carrying the bag, maybe playing 2 rounds in a day, And, you're getting up in age a little bit, need a little bit of Sunset Lake CBD, like a salve on your back after a long day of disc golf. I'll tell you what, feels amazing. You go to Sunset Lake CBD, offering listeners 20% off all orders if you use code UPSHOT at checkout. So sunsetlakecbd.com, use code UPSHOT at checkout. Sunset Lake CBD, farmer owned, Vermont grown.
Welcome back to the Upshot. Joining us now, MVP Open champion James Proctor. James, first time on the program. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I got home last night. We had a little welcome party. I got to see some family and friends. It was amazing.
Well, now you're up early with us, so sorry to make you get up early on the West Coast, but we appreciate it. What a crazy final round. There's so much to break down. Just when you came into the day on Sunday, what are you thinking about when you're getting ready to start your round?
Not a whole lot. I was so I caddied for Evelina in the morning, and then I had to shift things around with my suitcase and the vans and all that because Eric was heading home, and I was putting stuff in Chandler's car and putting stuff in Evelina's car. So I hadn't been taking a whole lot of warm up anyways. It was just a net and a couple baskets by hole one's tee pad. So, I was only giving myself 15, 20 minutes to kind of get loose. And at that point, the nerves hadn't really set in yet. It was kind of when we were on one's tee and they were doing those ceremonial throw offs. And then I was like, okay, this is a big moment. Let's go take advantage of it. But that's one of my favorite things about caddying in the morning is I'm not just focused on my round all day. I get to watch disc golf and celebrate and hang out with other people and not really just stew on what's lying ahead. So
at what point in your round, because you come in, you're bottom of that lead card, and Ricky has a great start coming out of the gate. And Gannon, 3 down through 5, not bad. At what point though does it kind of turn around and you start feeling like, okay, I am in prime position, I really have an opportunity here?
I remember, birdie and 2 felt good, and then missing that putt on 3, I thought to myself, you can't miss those putt and win this tournament. You have to knock down when you have opportunities. And then after I bogeyed 7 with that lame approach, I really stopped worrying about the win. I thought, you know what? All you got to do now is just have fun and go birdie and just go play golf. And I think that kind of freed me up to do what I was able to do for the rest of the round.
We heard you in the interview after your win say that, you asked Ali, who was caddying for you, what you needed to do on the putt on 18. And we'll get to that whole sequence in a second, but did you ever look at scores from that point forward at any point in the round? Were you aware that you could win when you got to 16, 17, 18?
I was aware only because after I made the putt on 15, one of the camera guys never left my face the rest of the time. So, I had an idea, but I had no idea what scores were. I don't generally look at scores anyway. When I made that drop zone putt in round 3, Ali said that was to make lead card. I said, oh, sweet. I had no idea. The way that course plays and the way really most courses play, aside from 1 or 2 holes, it doesn't change my game plan. So knowing doesn't really do a whole lot for me. I'd rather just go out there and play golf and try to have fun. That's when I'm playing my best. So I had no idea throughout that entire round. I was not paying attention to scores. I didn't know what my score was. I had totally forgotten that, Gannon took a big number on 8 and that Rick took those back-to-back bogeys. I wasn't even really paying attention to that. And then, after I won, I was thinking, geez, how did I get ahead of everyone by so many strokes and looking back at it, but at the time I had no idea.
Would you have done 18 if on the tee of 18, Ali says, hey, you only need a bogey here and you win this tournament. Would you have played 18 any differently?
Not off the tee pad. I had been throwing that tee shot pretty well, and it's a similar shot to what I throw on hole 9 and honestly 17. And I was going to try to throw a good shot no matter what, get myself way up there. Had I thrown a good shot, I would have asked Ali, okay, what do I need to do? but because of where that drive landed, there was no use, and it was a layup no matter what. So, but my plan was to throw a good tee shot and then ask Allie.
So there was some discussion, and we were talking about this we do a rapid react show on Sunday nights. When you're throwing the approach shot into the green, the one that ended up going out of bounds, there's not really that much room to lay up further in front of where you already were, right? So wouldn't have made sense to try to do that given the way that they changed the OB and brought it and kind of pulled it back off the island green.
Yeah, that never even crossed my mind. I mean, I could have maybe pitched it another 30, 35 feet, but then it's not like I can jump putt from there and get over. It's still another shot. And so it never even crossed my mind to lay up after that third shot.
All right. So, I mean, we're here, so let's talk about it. So you go on this approach shot, surely at this point, right? Camera's in your face, crowd is buzzing. How are you feeling throwing that shot? And like when you let it go, did you know that it was no good? Like what's going through your mind in that part of the throw?
At some point, I believe when we got up to my tee shot, Allie said, all you need to do is par. And I said, okay, lay up, get off the hole. And I was happy with the second layup and walking up. I had 2 discs in my hand. I had my beat up Anheuser putter and I had my zone forehand. And I thought the forehand I thought if I executed the Anheuser putter, it would have left me with a 25 footer that I did not want to have to make. So I said, okay, go zone, execute it. You're parked, tap it in. And out of the hand, I thought it was good. I knew it wasn't short. I knew that much, but I thought because I had it on hyzer the whole way that it would swing in front of the bleachers and be good. I hadn't practiced from that specific spot. Like all of my other layups in practice were in front of that tree. But out of the hand, I thought it was good. I was surprised when it went long. And it was at that point I said, okay, honestly, the thought that popped in my head was, if you make this putt, do you celebrate like you win, or did you just lose or tie? Like, I didn't know the situation.
That's so crazy.
I knew I wasn't getting a par. And so I asked Allie, what happens if I win? And she said, you win. And I said, okay, let's go make the putt. And I didn't know Macbeth was in second, what he did off a third card. I had no idea who was right behind me. I figured it was Goose. It could have been Rick or Gannon. Like after Gannon made the putt on 17, I'm like, well, he's right there too. So I had no idea. I didn't know if I made that putt to win by 3 or if I made that putt to win by 1. I didn't know what happened if I missed. I just said, let's go make the putt.
That was so sick. What was your confidence level stepping up to the drop zone there?
Pretty high. It felt the round 3 putt make immediately out of the hand. I knew it was in. It just one of those putts that just felt too perfect. And so I knew what it needed to feel like. I knew what it needed to look like. I knew that you really have to keep it in the air. Like missing low is so easy on that putt. And so that was kind of just what I was telling myself in my head was keep it in the air and give it a chance. And out of the hand, it felt a little low. It wasn't as high as the one the day before, only maybe by 6 inches or so. And so I didn't throw my hand up initially, but once I saw like the carry, then I knew it was the perfect line. And then I threw the hand up. Yeah.
Had you practiced? Do you practice the putt from that drop zone?
I practiced it twice. I missed it low once and missed it high once. And then I watched Silva make it round 1 and kind of saw the perfect line. And I just remember, I always tease her that she's a better putter than I am just because she makes it look so simple. And so kind of inside of me, after watching her drain it, I said, okay, if you get this putt, you need to make it. Like, you can't let her beat you on this one.
Yeah. It was a hell of a moment. Obviously the crowd went totally crazy. What's it like playing on a course where you have a really rowdy gallery pretty much Thursday to Sunday? I mean, it was pretty busy and loud out there the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, it going in, and with that course too, there's really tough holes that you're going to get bad breaks on. And so, going into the event, 4 rounds on that course, I kind of told myself, like, if you get a bogey, you're not allowed to get frustrated. Everyone's going to get a bogey. Stuff's going to go wrong. Stuff's going to go right. Just keep battling. Like it was going to be a marathon no matter what. And so, going into it, you're going to be hearing cheers throughout the course. You're going to be hearing music on the course. You're going to be, there's porta potty doors slamming on some holes. Like it's part of the event at this point. And so you just have to know going in to, just weather the little storms and try to not let it affect you and try to just stay focused on your shot.
When you think about this win versus your win earlier in the year in Europe, what are some of the big contrasts in terms of like what it felt like, what it feels like now, how you evaluate it in terms of importance in your career, just kind of comparing and contrasting those two wins?
Yeah. I mean, the win in Sweden, I had the 3-stroke lead going in and I had no big names on my card. All the big names were on chase card. But I remember it being a similar game plan to where I wasn't looking at scores. I wasn't going to be worried about what anyone was doing on chase card. I was just going to go out there and play my game, try to throw. For me, it's all about hitting the first gap off the tee. Like what's the simple shot you can execute and just get yourself a look. I'm not trying to park the hole. I'm not trying to, throw the high level shot. I just want to give myself as many opportunities as I can to make a putt. And I think I got off to a decent start, but at some point, I think somebody on chase card did something big in that event and like everyone erupted and Ella kind of told me, don't worry, they're not doing anything. Like just play your game. And that kind of eased me. And I think, contrastly, but similarly, like my ease point in the round at MVP was bogey in 7. And then I like kind of stopped worrying about everyone and it just like, all right, it's not going to do you any good to look at scores or to be frustrated about a bogey. Just relax and go play. And so, I kind of had both. I had points in both rounds to where I stopped really focusing on the win and focusing on how important each shot was. And I just got to go play. And, yeah, I mean, that one, I believe again, after the tee shot on 18, Ella said, you can take a bogey, you can take a double bogey and win. And so I got to kind of relax on that one. I didn't get to relax at MVP, but that one being my first win, with big names there, Paul was there, Niklas, Simon, Calvin, Rick, like big names there, Joey Buckets. And so for me, that was sort of, I didn't expect it. I had been playing good golf. I got second to Niklas 2 weeks before, but it felt like a huge sigh of relief and a huge accomplishment. And, I'll never forget that win. But that being said, this Maple Hill victory at this venue, playoff event, 4-rounder, just, coming from behind on 2 guys that have had 2 of the best years the sport has ever seen, like, it definitely had a different feeling. I think just with those guys being on the same card as well. Because I could kind of treat the other one like an A tier, where I could be the big dog and this is my event. No one's going to take it from me. I can't make myself feel that way when I'm on a card with Rick and Gannon. I'm the underdog and I know that, and that's okay, but it's a different vibe for sure.
You had your first top 10 at an elite series back in 2015, Masters Cup. You finished 7th. You've been a great player, playing primarily on the West Coast for a long time, almost a decade. So what was the change for you to decide, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to go on tour and I'm going to play more? So you played a lot in 2022 and then you played even more in 2023. And then of course this year, what was the decision for you to say, hey, I'm going to like go out and on the road and do this as like basically my full-time job now?
I mean, honestly, a lot of the decision was there was more money in the sport in 2022 and 2023. I had heard about some of the contracts guys were getting, and I was at the time teaching in Seattle, and my wife and I had been talking about possibly like moving back to California at the end of the year. We've been talking about in 2 or 3 years down the road having kids. And so it kind of like certain stars were just aligning and there was enough transitions going on where we we started discussing, you know, like, what's this going to look like if I want to go tour full time for a couple of years? Like, now seems like it would be the best time to make that leap. And so, yeah, at the end of the 2022 school year, I stopped teaching and then hopped on the road with Chandler Fry. I think maybe Minnesota was my first event, or I'm not sure exactly, maybe the Portland swing, but yeah. So I toured for the second half of 2022 and then full time since.
So you were sponsored by Innova in 2022, and then you switched to ThoughtSpace, Combo Clash, you know, kind of the more open bag route in 2023. Was that because you wanted the disc optionality, or did you feel like you didn't get a contract offer that was sufficient for you to stick with a single manufacturer?
I mean, I got a contract offer that was probably fair for what I had proven myself in the sport at that time, but it wasn't enough to where I would have comfortably quit my job and made the jump. You know, I needed more money than what I was going to be offered. And so, you know, talking with Eric Oakley at USDGC in 2022, and he was the original ThoughtSpace Infinite Clash player. We had kind of talked about a plan where I would tour with him and we would both represent the same companies, and we would kind of be like a little road show for those companies, those smaller companies. And you know, so we pitched that to the companies and they loved it. And, you know, I was able to kind of guarantee myself a little bit more money, than what Innova was able to offer me. And so that kind of made it worth it for me to have the confidence to, you know, not have that steady income that the teacher job provided.
In terms of like guaranteed money and royalties from discs, how, and without necessarily even specific numbers, how does your contract, is it almost entirely royalties? Is it 50-50? How does that kind of break down with your contract right now?
It's more guaranteed money than it is royalties, but I think that also just has to do with the fact that the market is so saturated right now with discs. Like it's hard to sell discs. Companies are struggling this year. You know, I think last year it was probably closer to 50-50. This year, we haven't sold quite as many discs, but you know, the nice thing for me is I'm getting paid by 3 different companies right now. So it's not like they're all having to write these huge, massive checks, but together, you know, they add up to make it worthwhile for me. And so, you know, I think it works well for both parties in that way.
You know, are you surprised it's taken you this long to get a tour win? I know you've done a lot of winning at A tiers and B tiers and C tiers and whatnot, but, you know, 2024, the year you now have taken down 2 Pro Tour events, including arguably the biggest non-major of the entire season. Are you surprised by that?
Only because of the year, like how this year has shaped up. You know, if you asked me last year if I would get a win next year, I would say, yeah, I'm going to get one.
Yeah.
But I started out the season, you know, I think I got like 3 or 4 20 something place in a row. And so things just weren't quite clicking the way they needed to. And, you know, I lost a little bit of confidence and I had to kind of go back and really focus on, you know, why I was bleeding so many strokes. And, yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, but at the same time, I know how hard it is to win. And I know, you know, some things have to align and it has to be your weekend. You know, if Gannon and I go out and play our best golf, Gannon's going to beat me by 6. I know that, you know, he's that good. And so, you just, like, I just told myself, you know, you're not going to win the tournament round 1. You're not going to win the tournament round 2. Just quit shooting these bad first rounds, overthinking everything, and just go out and play golf and give yourself an opportunity. And, you know, I think I figured some things out second half of the season. I started taking a little bit of the pressure off myself and really just trying to enjoy the golf more. And I think my results have kind of showed that.
We've been talking about post-wedding Proctor, which, by the way, congratulations on getting married.
Thank you.
Your performance has certainly been a lot better since you got married. Do you think that had anything to do with the first half struggles, or is that just a convenient narrative?
You know, I mean, I can't really like directly correlate anything. It does appear that way, and maybe some of it was part of that. But I think, you know, for me, I wasn't even necessarily confident going into the season in 2023. I didn't play that well in 2022. And for some reason, the game just felt easy. And I would just go out there and shoot around, and it happened to be a good one. And I was on lead card all the time, and I got used to it. And, you know, starting in Florida, and this year that didn't happen. And then we go to Texas and it wasn't happening. And I think, you know, the frustrations were building, the questions were building, and the game just didn't necessarily feel easy anymore. And so it kind of took me a while to, I think, you know, change my mentality a little bit and let go of the expectations from last year, and let go of, you know, comparing. I remember Jonesboro this year. I played a practice round. I shot a couple under, and I'm like, what did I do here last year? Like, and I went back and watched a Jomez, and it's like, how did I play this course so well? And I shot 11 under in round one, playing it for the first time, like maybe 1 or 2 practice rounds, but it was the first year I played the event. And I just remember thinking, like, how were you so good last year? Like, where did all of that go? And I think after Jonesboro, I stopped. I said, you know what? No more last year. Like, this is a new season. These players are good. You know, you're just going to have to figure something out. And so, you know, the wedding, I think, was a good break and reset. And, you know, we got to go to Hawaii for 2 weeks, and I got to just spend quality time with my wife. And I think it was, if anything, you know, it was just a good mental reset and a good place to kind of check myself, check my expectations, and, you know, have a different approach for the second half of the season.
When we were talking about your decision to go on tour, you kind of spoke about possibly moving, starting a family, you know, establishing a little bit of a time frame about why there's a nice window for you to tour. What is your, and I think players often tell us that as they play well, that kind of adjusts their expectations, right? If you're out here and you're grinding and not winning anything, and you're constantly missing cash, like that could very quickly change your decision about touring. But in the same way, winning 2 Pro Tour events in the same year also has to influence your decision. What are your touring plans for the future right now?
So originally we said, you know, give it 2 years, and then make your decision on whether you want to keep going or not. And so this is that second year now. I'm committed to 1 more year for now. You know, I'm not going to make any decisions past that. I think there's a chance that I will play a lot less events if I do play in 2026. Because, you know, my priorities are shifting a little bit. The tour is long. I don't like being away from home so much. You know, disc golf is amazing, but I have a lot of other hobbies and other things that I want to, you know, explore and accomplish. And so right now I'm committed through 2025. And, you know, after that page hasn't been written yet.
You are maybe unique in that you are often out caddying for FPO rounds in the morning before you play in the afternoon. You've been on the bag for Evelina a lot, of course, Ella in the past. Do you find that you already mentioned that it helps you kind of keep your mind off of your round? And do you find that you learn about how you want to play the course or about the game in any way by caddying and watching the top FPO players, you know, up close and personal like that?
100%, 100%. Especially, like, you know, Worlds was a prime example of getting more looks at New London, because we were playing the same fairways, and I got to, you know, see different landing zones. And I was caddying for Silva round 1, and watching her, you know, how calm she stays and how she laces the drive and she's focused, and she hits the first tree and she's focused. She doesn't let it rattle her. And watching her play that round really helped me, like, kind of set my mentality for that Worlds. But yeah, 100%, you know, honestly, I like getting up in the morning. I feel better if I'm moving my body all day. I sleep better. And so I go stir crazy if I have a 2:00 tee time and I'm just sitting in the hotel all day. Like, it's the worst. And so for me, it's really fun. And I know the girls appreciate it, and, you know, I'm sure it helps them too, but it's honestly for selfish reasons why I like to do it. Because yeah, it's a look at the course. It's a chance to, you know, move my body and get a nice warm up and just be outside and walking around and socializing and having fun. And, you know, it's honestly, I was the last round of MVP. I was so excited because Henna, Evelina, and Allie were all on the same card. And so, you know, I was honestly more excited in the morning to hang out with them and be on their bag than I was for my round. But yeah, it's a great time. I really love it, and I appreciate them letting me be a part of it.
When you're caddying for them, are you just there to kind of carry the bag and be good vibes, or do they consult you on shot decisions, score, kind of the role of golf caddy?
Yeah, Evelina started to do that more. She trusts me. She knows that I know her bag. I mean, her bag's the easiest bag to know. It's a TL3, 2 Thunderbirds and Destroyers. And she's such an amazing thrower. Sometimes she'll be like, I don't know what to do. And I'll say, take this disc and do that. And she does it perfectly every time. So she's definitely asking my opinion more and more. But at the same time, I'm not going to offer up anything. If she kind of picks a disc and goes, I'm going to trust that she knows what she's doing. So a lot of it is, just joking around, keeping the mood light. But then, yeah, I definitely, offer my advice when it's asked for.
What was it like watching Ev win Worlds?
Oh my goodness. It was so impressive. She wanted to give up after she what was that, hole 12? She threw it out of bounds and then missed the putt.
Mm-hmm.
And so I gave her a little pep talk there, and then, just watching her make the putt on 13 and then execute the par on 14, and just every shot from there on out was perfect. It was funny on 17 and 18. She's like, what do I do? My hands are shaking. She just, as soon as she gets on the tee pad, you would have no idea. She just steps up and executes. And it was just impressive. It was so impressive. The way she kind of battled through her own little demons during that round. And, it was inspiring. It was so much fun. It was the most nervous I've ever been playing disc golf, or not playing, but just being a part of the sport, and yeah, it was, you could just tell how much it meant to her and how big of a weight Worlds carries. That moment was huge. And, yeah, it was cool to see her come out on top, and how happy Henna was for her. And yeah, it was incredible.
All right. We mentioned this stat earlier, and I'll read it to you here so that you can react to it. Your total PDGA cash earnings from tournaments from 2008 to 2022 is $68,000. And the last two seasons is, after the MVP win, is $78,000. What do you make of that? I mean,
before 2022, I was playing maybe 10 events a year, smaller ones at that. So I think, the sport has also grown. There's more money in it for sure, but just the magnitude of the events I'm playing now, I probably low 20s, which for me is a ton, because I'm sure if you looked at my events played from 2008 to 2021, it probably averaged out to maybe 7 or 8 events a year. So, yeah, disc golf was, it started out as a hobby that I just got pretty good at, and I love to compete. And, in college, when I stopped playing baseball and basketball, and I was going to school right near Lake Tahoe, there's courses everywhere. So my buddies and I would just go out, and that kind of brought me to that next level. And, but yeah, before 2022, I think it just speaks. I've probably played a similar amount of events in both categories. But yeah, it feels good. It feels good to some of these, because tour's expensive. It's not cheap. So some of these higher finishes and big paychecks definitely help.
Where would you rank yourself among putters on tour?
I think if you take overall C1 and C2, I can't put anyone above me. I think Marweed's the best C1 putter. Yeah. I'll give him that. I think, event to event, I've never seen anyone more dangerous from anywhere than Gannon. But I think season long consistency, if you accumulate C1 and C2, I can't put anyone else above me.
You are the number 2 this season, number 2 in Circle 2 putting. You are 0.3 percentage points behind Matt Bell, who also has you by 1% in C1. So
Bell's a great putter. Bell's a great putter. And you know what? He is an absolutely menace on the putting green. And yeah, I can't say anything bad about Bell or his putt. I want to, because we're starting to pay so much attention to these putting stats and who's the best putter. And I think you have to, I think, people say Andrew Marwy's the best putter, and I agree from circle one, but I think putting is also circle two, and everyone leaves that out. But also, I've had so many rounds, and I stopped caring. At the beginning of the year, I did not care. I wouldn't even look at my stats. It was not important to me. But I've had so many rounds where my stats are so inaccurate. I remember round one in Florida, the PDGA was like, James Proctor, 7 for 10 from C2 or whatever it was. And they made a post, and I was like, you guys got to delete that. I didn't even make a C2 putt this entire round. Like, those are all C1. And it's just, as we're starting to pay more attention and it's all bragging rights, who's the best putter, whatever. But like, we need to have more accurate stat keeping if we're going to be holding weight to if we're going to be using these metrics as who's our best putter. But that being said, I will go on record. Marweed from C1, I don't think there's anybody better. Matt Bell is an overall phenomenal putter. And I think you have to put Gannon in that conversation. But yeah.
But hey, you just jammed the biggest putt of the season.
I mean, if you look at my 2 wins and you look at like the back nines and the putts I made, I'm just going to say that those 2 rounds speak for themselves.
Yep.
So I have a question that I want to ask real fast to an excellent putter here. DGPT announced that they are going to be doing new equipment testing for baskets to update their basket standards.
Yes.
I want to hear your thoughts about, are there certain baskets that you think are worse that shouldn't be on tour?
Yes.
Great. Please tell us
the breakdown.
Tell us about and why.
Breakdown right now.
So the main issue I've seen, and what I've heard is a company can submit a basket for testing and they get approved. And essentially, I think like that model is approved. So they can come out with a new model, put it on a course without it being tested, and it just, gets umbrellaed in. But the baskets that only have 1 ring on the bottom should not be allowed on the Pro Tour, because all the chains come up at once and it just creates spit outs. It does. And we've seen a couple baskets on tour that only have 1 ring on the bottom. And the ones we were playing on this week, I think had 3, which I didn't see too many spit outs. Maybe there was a couple. There's always going to be a couple, but I've definitely seen certain baskets perform way better than other baskets. And you're right. What I've heard is at Pro Tour Championship, they're going to be lining up a bunch of baskets and we're all going to get to putt on them, and they're going to collect data and we're going to give our feedback. And, I don't know, what the criteria is for how well a basket needs to perform to stay on the tour. I don't know any of that, but I've heard that we're going to be able to do a little sort of exhibition with everybody. Everybody's basket's going to be lined up at the Tour Championship, and we're all going to get to evaluate them. So yeah, we'll see where that takes us. But I think it is an issue, and I think certain baskets do perform vastly better than other baskets, and it's a problem that needs to be solved.
Are there any that you really love or really hate?
I love. I'm a Innova 28 guy. I know they might not be the absolute best. I have no problem with the Discraft baskets. I have no problem with the MVP basket that we put it on this event. I don't mind Prodigy baskets. I think the horizontal chains can cause some issues with, the cradle in and out, which is, I don't know how the horizontal chain is an interesting one, but, I think those 4 baskets are fine. I'm probably blanking on a couple. I know there's a company called Birdcage out of Canada that's making a basket that looks really solid. They actually flipped the collar to be below the cage, so they don't have that bolt where the chain can get caught on. So they kind of solved that issue. So So I think their basket will be there. I might be blanking on it, one or two other companies, but those 4 definitely kind of stick out as solid baskets.
Veterans got to go.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
I said it.
I can't disagree with you there. Yeah.
We got a couple more big tournaments down the stretch here.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on Winthrop and USDGC and your chances there?
I feel good. Winthrop is a course I feel comfortable on. I've played it a handful of times now. My sidearm feels good at the moment, so that's giving me a little bit of confidence. I hope I'm curious to see what changes they've made this year and how that course is going to look. I saw some photos of, 17 and 5 being underwater and a giant tree, I think on one falling down. So, my thoughts and prayers are with everyone in that community and, everywhere, Carolina, Tennessee, all of that. It's devastating. And I hope, I have no doubt that they'll get the course in good looking condition. I don't know what other trees have fallen, how it's going to look. But I feel good. That's a course that it's another marathon. It's another bogeys are going to happen. You have to have a strong mental game. And I really like where my head is at right now. I love where my putt's at. And so if I can see a bunch of green flags, I like my chances for sure. And, Pro Tour Championships, that's a tricky one. I'm not even sure. You guys might know better than I do. So I know we get strokes, and I think they changed it to just 4 rounds. There's no more cut after 2.
I have the numbers for you, actually.
And that's correct. They don't reset. You'll just play all 4 rounds.
We'll play all 4 rounds.
Yes.
Okay.
You will be starting at 4 under par. Gannon will be at 10 down, Ricky at 9, Nicholas at 8, Calvin at 7, and then on from there.
Yeah, it's a dangerous group to be 10 under par to start, but I think obviously starting 4 down is awesome. But that's another one, that's all in the woods. So what is Isaac Robinson starting at?
6.
Well, if his fingers back to normal by then, hopefully it will be, I mean, that one would be a bigger surprise for me. I'll put it that way. Just because it is 18 holes in the woods. And I do love woods. I'm not the absolute best at it. There are players that are far better than I am at hitting tight gaps. But anything's possible. We proved that. I was behind Rick and Gannon going into that last round. And it just, that gives me confidence that anything is possible. So I like where my head's at. Like I said, I like where my putt's at. And if I can stay confident off the tee and hit some gaps, I have a chance. We'll put it that way.
Well, hey, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for getting up early with us, and we'll see you in Rock Hill.
Can't wait. I appreciate you guys.
Congrats again on the win this weekend. 2 Pro Tour wins this season for James Proctor.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Upshot. I absolutely love it. James Proctor came in here and said, I'm the best putter on tour. And anything that says otherwise, the stats are lies. No.
and as the best putter on tour, get rid of the veteran baskets.
Get rid of the veteran baskets. Let's go.
None of this. We need to adjust our putting style to the baskets we're playing on. Get them out.
There is still truth to that, but there's good and there's bad.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
And if it's bad, let's get it out of here.
Yep.
So shout out to the Pro Tour, and they're doing the right thing, which is, look, they already know they want to get rid of these baskets.
Yes.
This is going to be a formal process to remove them.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Watch the specs be like, if your basket starts with the letter V, you're not allowed to have it.
But I mean, really just what a fascinating guy. I mean, like, he might play one more season and then be out.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of wild, but I get it. You're starting a family. Part of the situation here is like making enough money for it to be worthwhile. Mm-hmm. Like,
well, he also
not everybody wants to grind
right
and finish the year with $5,000 in savings.
Yes. Yeah. And the other flip side is like, he has an established career to go back to.
Right.
Right. He can, teaching jobs are, a dime a dozen everywhere. I mean, he can pick his pick. Teachers are in desperate need. So he has an established career that he's done, that he knows he enjoys, he gets to go back to. And so it's very easy at that point to just hang it up, because you have something to go back to. The other thing I thought was really fascinating, and I don't know why I hadn't thought about it this way, but when James said, like, I'm sponsored by 3 different companies, they all write me a check for guaranteed salary every month, and so it's not that big of a deal in terms of the amount for each of them. Like, I don't know. I guess when we like talked about the combo, I was like, oh yeah, like Infinite Discs is his sponsor, and like he gets to sell some TSA and Clash discs and get royalties. I guess I don't know why I didn't think about it that way, but that makes so much sense that all 3 companies get to kind of share that load for the sponsorship amounts, which makes it much more feasible to pay guys like James and Eric Oakley enough salary that they can tour full time.
It's a very interesting thing, and I agree. I guess I didn't have the same conception of it either, at least in terms of the amount of guaranteed money.
Yeah.
Because the way he made it sound is that, like, the Innova offer, presumably, wasn't as good as the offer with this kind of like the triple combo.
Yeah.
And I'll be really curious to see if we see more of that in the future, because I think it just has to be said, it is an advantage to be able to choose exactly which discs you want and have no restrictions on your bag.
Without a doubt.
Come on. Like, I don't care how good you think a particular company's products are. I guarantee you the large majority of pros, if they had their choice, even if they threw 90% Discraft, right, and they were Discraft sponsored, there would be certain slots where they would pick a different disc. It's just a fact.
I almost wonder.
And the players are like saying, hey, please clone this disc that I used to use with my other company so that I can use it here. Yep. It's like, okay.
It almost makes you wonder too, like, could we see the future sponsorships change where even the big companies, like, think like, MVP, for example. MVP is the primary sponsor, but then they write contracts in a way that TSA, like, is the secondary sponsor and makes up 25% of the salary, right? As part of the production deal, that MVP, if you're producing TSA's discs, for example, that you have to, or Discraft and DGA.
Because you're making money whether they buy a TSA disc or they buy an MVP
Exactly.
disc.
So what if as part of the production deal, you kind of require that these companies pick up the slack and it becomes like a duo or a trio sponsor, and they have to make up 15 to 20% of the salary. It means that DGA gets more sponsored players, but they also don't have quite the same amount. Discraft gets a little bit off their payroll. I mean, I don't know. It may result in less players who are sponsored, but more players who are earning like full salaries to travel full time. So I guess it kind of depends on which one you prioritize there.
It's an interesting thing, and like, I do think longer run we see, because of financial reasons, if the sport continues to grow, I think you see driver sponsors, putter sponsors separately, right? Like, I think players could do that now if they were really motivated to do so. They could go to a company and say, hey, I really want to use your putter. I want to make a deal where I use your putter, and we, 25% of the time I wear your company's name on my back, and we make special stamps, and we have a whole putter deal just for the putter. And that's all you get. If I choose to use other discs of yours, that's my own choice. But like, you're my putter sponsor. I mean, a great putter could go sell that. I think James Proctor could do that, right?
You know who else could do that? Isaac Robinson.
Sure.
Coming up, right? Hey, sure. I will putt with the PA3s still. Here's what I want to putt with the PA3s.
Right.
And then it goes and finds a sponsor for everything else.
It's not a crazy thing.
No, it would not be.
But it would be new. A lot, maybe companies wouldn't be very open to it, but somebody's going to knock down that door at some point. I mean, we sort of seen it, right? Because we had EV7 stuff.
Well, that's because then, yeah. But Drew's Drew Gibson's stuff is kind of weird. A situation,
That's true.
right? Like, because I still think he's the only player that putts with those.
Yeah, I don't know.
But anyway.
Matt Bell has a Penrose special edition thing, but
Okay,
I haven't heard
okay.
a thing about EV7 since last year. So
Right.
I don't know what's going on over there.
Since Drew Gibson has like been at the top of the tour. Yeah.
The disc golf recession hit Drew Gibson too. So we got a lot to get to Thursday. We're going to take a look at all the Pro Tour standing stuff. We don't have time today because we've got 2 interviews. So Missy Gannon will be joining us in a little bit. So let's talk some FPO. Josh, it really looked like this was going to be another Kristen weekend. And she wasn't playing her absolute best, but it just felt like we were going to see what we've seen before, which is other players kind of falling away. Missy and Kristen, Kristen takes the big lead, takes a 2-stroke lead on the 2-stroke swing in the back 9. And you're thinking to yourself, well, I mean, this is Kristen's tournament again. I mean, that was hole 14. And so, after Missy goes out of bounds, you're thinking, okay, well, this is a wrap. They both birdie 15. They both par 16. So it's 2 shots with 2 holes to play. That's got to be it, right, Josh? Psych. Missy Gannon hits one of the biggest putts of the season. Elevated basket, circle 2 jam on 17. And then Kristen misses a bunny.
Mm-hmm.
She misses a bunny from like maybe 20 feet. Like I'm going to look and see what they posted it as. Because it was not a long putt.
I think it was sub 25 feet.
They say 24 feet.
Yeah.
So she splashes it out right side, taps in for bogey. It's even going into 18. And then, of all things, Kristen blows a forehand approach. And Missy nails it. And that's the game.
Yeah.
That's it. Missy wins it. Big money Missy, 10K. Thank you very much.
Let me ask you this, Charlie.
How is that possible? That was wild.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Last week, like, you were so mad that Kristen had won because of the fashion that she won, right? Silva, big lead.
I'm not mad that Kristen won. I'm mad that other players just immolated.
Are you mad about that this weekend?
Because Kristen immolated?
Yeah.
No, but I get your point.
But,
The difference being that Missy really had to earn it and hit a crazy putt and like stick a tough island green. Like it wasn't just like a walkover, But it is fair. I get your point.
I thought a lot about this the past couple days, and
Been waiting to ask me.
I really have. I've been setting up for this. I've been like, okay, look, I've been playing through this. You know what it really feels like to me? It feels like MVP voter fatigue in other sports.
Yeah.
When
you're
you
right.
have players who win MVP multiple years in a row, and even if they have what would be an MVP worthy season, people get tired of voting for that player on the same metrics. And when they don't perform to those metrics, even if they, in a vacuum, rightfully probably would have gotten MVP, voter fatigue is a real thing. And I think that the narrative fatigue around Kristen is the same thing. Because, we have brutally punished Kristen for like getting wins that she quote unquote didn't deserve, or, very frustrated that people were giving it away to Kristen, even when she shoots over 1,000 rated final round in order to get herself in that position. And here we have Kristen doing the same thing that we've been so frustrated at other players about. It's funny to me. It's very clear that that Kristen is not performing to the level she did in previous years, and we are fatigued with the Kristen dominance. And so when Kristen gets wins that maybe aren't up to her level, we're frustrated. And when someone takes it and Kristen has a little bit of a implosion, it's refreshing, right? We're excited for Missy to hit that putt in that forehand.
You're 100% right. I mean, there's no question that there's a little bit of
and it's not just you, right? It's
fatigue on that sense, but it's also because we've seen some tremendous collapses from Silva and Evelina this season at times when Kristen wasn't really playing that well. I think the big difference here, like Missy, okay, there's some crazy stats about this tournament just overall, but Missy played literally the best tournament she's ever played by rating.
Right.
So yes, while I think it's fair to say that if you just kind of zero in on the very end of this round, it kind of looks like Kristen blew it and like choked it, which sure. I mean, she missed a bunny putt and then she missed a forehand approach. A forehand approach? Kristen puts a forehand approach to 1 inch.
Yeah.
When she's right. So for her to miss that shot, I mean, it's pressure, right? It's pressure getting to the world number one.
Sure.
And the thing is, it's not like it was just like Kristen kind of walked in with a 993 rated event and wins the tournament. I mean, Missy shot better than she's ever shot.
Yep.
And not only that, the final round was 1038 rated.
That and very impressive. I want to talk about these.
She grits it up and, erases the bogey on 14. And stand by for the stat, crazy stat. There has never been another tournament where you had to play over 1,000 rated golf to get 5th place in FPO. This is the first time it's ever happened. So everybody in the top 5 shot over 1,000 rated.
For the event.
For the event. Not just for the round, for the event. So this comes from Evan from Statmando.
Okay.
Including MVP Open, there have only been 19 times where FPO players have shot 1,000 plus event rating and didn't win. 14 of those 19 times were second place finishes. And we've seen that, right? Missy Gannon at Worlds last year shot over 1,000 rated and lost to Kristen.
Yep.
Of the 4 of the remaining 5, those were both not DNFs and not second place finishes. All 4 of those were from the last 2 Pro Tour events, MVP and GMC this year. Owen Scoggins, who finished 3rd with a 1,001 rated event at GMC, and then Scoggins, Pierce, and Hansen, 1006, 1004, 1001 to finish 3rd, 4th, and 5th at MVP. This was elite disc golf this weekend.
It was. I think that stat might not be true when the numbers get officially published.
Because you think they're gonna knock some of these 1,000 ratings down?
So tell me. I mean, and I know the course is a little bit different from round 1 to from rounds 1 and 2 to rounds 3 and 4, but Kristen's 8 down in round 2 was 1030 rated, and Missy's 7 down in round 4 is 1038 rated, and I'm trying to remember if there was like what the weather differences were, but I don't. I think I was shocked when I saw the round ratings come in for the final round.
You felt like they were a little hot.
I think they're a little hot. I think ever since Kristen's hit 1,000 rated, the rounds have felt a little bit. I think Kristen's messing with the algorithm a little bit, and I don't know.
Well, I don't think the 1,000 rating thing has anything to do with it.
Sure, but that's I don't know. Lately, I mean, like Heidi Leina, Haley King, Rebecca Cox, Evelina Salonen all shoot 3 down, tying them for 9th, and they all got 1,004 rating designation.
You think it's too much?
Is this the most 1,000 rated rounds we've ever seen in an FPO round?
That's a great question. I don't know the answer.
I don't either.
Let me give you a fact, though. You ready for a fact? Okay. Without looking, guess last year's winning score. We did this in MPO. Let's do it in FPO. Haley King beat Kristen.
Wasn't it like 9?
It was 7.
Oh.
What was this year's, Josh?
18.
18. So I hear what you're saying.
Sure. That's a great point.
Your assessment of what is a good FPO round has risen a lot.
Sure.
Because the game is being played at a higher level.
And the ratings are showing that. I think that's a very fair answer.
So that's my point, right?
Yeah, it's a great point.
And 3 of Haley's rounds were over 1,000 rated last year. So I just think like we are seeing higher quality play and that's being reflected by the algorithm.
Sure. That is fair. There's 13 rounds by percentage. That has to be the highest because there's only 36 players. 13 rounds. 13 of of round 4 scores came in at over 1,000 rated.
I only count 10, but maybe I'm missing something.
Did I count wrong?
2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yeah.
You're right.
Salonen, Cox, King, Lina, Wynn, Hansen, Blumroos, Pierce, Scoggins, and Gannon.
Still, I mean, that's 10 out of 36.
No, I hear you.
That's
there's a very good chance that is a record.
Yeah.
I don't recall a time when we've seen that, and particularly on a wooded course. Like, it's not like this is going to give out a bunch of fake ratings. I mean, maybe some of the stuff because of 18. Like, there's some OB spots where like potentially you're getting a little bit of inflation.
Sure, but remember, Paul Macbeth's round here at Maple Hill is what we consider one of his best rounds in his career.
I think it's his best round ever.
Best round ever, and it's like not even in like the top 10 in highest rated rounds, isn't it?
Right.
Because
I think that's right. Yeah.
Maple Hill doesn't give out those kind of ratings typically. Now,
but I mean, look at some of these scores from good players. I mean, Silva Saarinen playing really bad this weekend probably helps the ratings of everybody at the top, right? So she shoots 14 over on the event after an absolutely awful start. Emily Weatherman, 18 over on the week.
Natalie Ryan shot 9 over in the final round. That's
Valerie Mondahano 4 over on the week. 22 shots worse than the winner. I mean, Valerie Mondahano is a great player.
Yeah.
This is a hard course.
Stacy Kiefer, who's 953 rated, shot 11 over in the final round.
Oh, man. She had a lot of pressure on her to go out there and play well in order to keep her Pro Tour championship spot, and it did not go well.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, shout out to Hannah Wynn, who shot the highest rated round of her career, a 4 under, and it was 10-12 rated, only her second 1,000+ rated event round ever, in order to go claim the last spot at the Pro Tour Championship.
So sick.
That is awesome. Congratulations to Hannah for doing that.
Yeah.
Ellie Mittling misses out on the Pro Tour Championship by less than 3/4 of a point. Wow. Basically had to finish one spot higher. That's tough, but
that's
you
a
know what?
heartbreaker.
She's coming up. She's coming up.
Is Katrina Allen registered for the Pro Tour Championship? No, she didn't make it. She is. We'll do more of this on Thursday.
She did not make it. That's correct.
Yeah.
Missed too much.
I'm curious if anyone above Ellie Mittling is going to drop.
I don't know if they let people in off of drops.
Do they not?
Why would anyone drop?
I don't know.
No one's going to drop. You're guaranteed to make a couple $1,000s just by setting foot on the premises.
You're right.
Anyway, it was an epic round. There are a lot, as the same was true in MPO. There were a lot of players who had a chance to win this tournament.
Yep.
Owen had a couple of untimely bogeys down the stretch. Obviously, Kristen was the heavy favorite with 2 strokes and 2 holes to play. Paige Pierce went bogey on 17 and 18, and that was the difference. I mean, Paige had such a great round to that point, but went cold at the wrong time. I think Ella Hansen even had a chance to win this thing, but too many bogeys. Holland was out of it already. That's basically the list.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty exciting week. I mean, we haven't had a tournament where you come into round 3, or you come out of round 3, I should say. Kristen has a 3-shot lead, but then you have Missy, Owen, Ella, and Paige all within striking distance.
Yep.
That's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun when disc golf looks like this, and it's being played on a great course.
It is.
I'll take more of this and less of the Midwest, please.
Coast to coast. That's
my God, like we have to wait all season for good tournaments.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to Annika and Sten. There were a total of 4 birdies on hole 18 in FPO on the weekend. She got 2 of them.
Oh, sick.
Ella and Holland each got 1, and then Annika got it twice, round 3 and round 4. So, impressive feat for her.
wonder if they need to tweak that hole a little bit.
Yes.
71% par.
Well,
that's round 2 I'm looking at.
Look at round 4. You wanna
more
see something
spread,
ugly.
but just no birdies.
Yeah.
He's playing more than a stroke over par. They probably need to move the tee pad.
Yeah. Well, move the tee pad a little bit and make it a par 5. I think it could be fine.
You could do that.
Yeah. Because honestly, even from the MPO tee pad, like that might be a little too far back. But moving it over there on that left side and having them throw the same tunnels MPO, and then from there, I don't know. You'd have to.
I mean, it was by far the hardest hole on the course.
Oh yeah.
42% of players took double bogey or worse.
The rest aren't bad. Like,
yeah, it's a hard course, but like, there's not a lot of freebie birdies, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
they're birdieable.
Yes, exactly. Everything is birdieable, but also has some like bogey punishment. Hole 18 needs fixed.
Yep.
But yeah.
It was a great weekend. We're going to talk now with Missy Gannon, who took it down and won the Pro Tour as well. She finished atop the Pro Tour standings thanks to her win. Holland Hanley had to finish, I think, 4th place or better, and it didn't happen. So Missy grabs the top spot and will have the 10 under starting stroke advantage going into the Pro Tour Championship in a couple of weeks. So we'll talk to Missy about that, about this weekend, and about everything that's been going on here in 2024. She joins us next. Joining us now on the Upshot is your 2024 MVP Open champ and Tour points winner this season, number 1 in the Pro Tour standings, Missy Gannon. Missy, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
1013 rated performance from you at MVP Open, and that is your best ever performance in a win. What a final round! What a tournament overall. Does this feel like the best you've ever played? That's what the stats say.
No, absolutely not. But, you never know how the ratings are going to shake out. It kind of depends on who plays well in any given round. But, yeah, I mean, you could just look at round 1 stats. I shot 50% C1 and that's unacceptable and usually doesn't translate to a win. So, yeah, I certainly feel like I was missing a lot of opportunities out there, but at the end of the day, it all worked out and I figured it out, turned it around and was able to come back and win it.
So going into this weekend, were you aware of the Pro Tour point standings implications for if you were to win this tournament and, Holland finishing below 3rd place?
I was aware of how close it was at the top. It's always kind of difficult to figure out, well, not difficult, but maybe just unnecessary to try to sit there and figure out what needs to happen. At the end of the day, we're trying to win no matter what's on the line. So, I didn't quite know exactly what needed to go down, in order to take that top spot, but, that wasn't really on my mind. It's a cool thing to have that under my belt and be the tour points champion, but, really the biggest goal was to just win the event. So, I think it wasn't until after, Holland Hanley, she's more into the numbers and she was like, dang, I had to take at least 4th to be able to hold that top spot. And, so she was very well aware and I just knew that it was close and I only had my mind on, Owen, Holland and Kristen, that I needed to do pretty well against them in order to probably take the top spot, but I wasn't really thinking about it too much.
How meaningful is it to you to finish number 1 on the season?
I think now that it's happened, I feel like it means a lot. But I think, overall, I'm just trying to finish near the top. And yes, there are the stroke, implications for the tour championship, but, I think you guys even alluded to it. It's only, 1 to 3 strokes between the top 4. It's not like a huge margin, but overall, I think as as like an accomplishment. It's really cool. I one of the things that you see all year is on the tee signs, you have the Tour Points champion picture on every single tee sign, at every single event. So like, that's like a cool little confidence booster. But, yeah, it's just another thing I could tick off the list, I guess.
As you mentioned, there's the stroke advantage in the new format. They will not be resetting the scores after round 2, so you will get to carry the 6-stroke advantage through the entire 4 rounds. What are your thoughts on the new DGPT championship format? Do you like the fact that it's essentially a reward for those who perform the best throughout the season?
Yes, I do. And especially because of, now there's no, reset and you have to play all 4 rounds. It feels like, with how much money is on the line and, the fact that you have to, qualify to get in, I think it makes sense to have to treat it almost like a major. You have to play 4 rounds, but you are still rewarded for having played well throughout the season. So I think that we'll see. Obviously it's kind of changed every year. So, I think we're still trying to find the perfect recipe, but, yeah, I think that we'll see how it all shakes out. And, in theory, I like how it's set up.
All right, let's dive back into this tournament and final round. You get out to a great start. You go 5 down in the front, and you're making a push. You're bogey free for the first 13 holes, and then a brutal 2-shot swing on 14. And I think you said in your post round interview that like you knew that was like that was crushing, but you told yourself to just kind of stay with it. There's still 4 holes to play. When did you realize like, okay, like I still could do this? Because I think a lot of people probably just assumed it was over, and it would have been easy. And I think many players even would have just been like, all right, well, I'm playing for second, and they would have changed the mindset to be playing for second.
Yeah. I took the second. I mean, you could see it even on my reaction when I threw that shot. I was like, okay, here you go. Here you go, Kristen. Have a great day. But, I did think like that for, a minute. And then I think it was round 1 or whatever. I made the drop zone putt. So I knew it could be fine, before the hole was over. Not ideal, obviously, but, at the end of the hole, obviously I did not make that putt. And so, yes, it was a tough two-stroke swing, but those last 3 holes or 4 holes, or whatever, what is it? Yeah, 4 holes. They're not the easiest. I think I just kept believing that, anything could happen. I was going to need some help, from Kristen or at least have to birdie 2 more holes and, kind of just hope that would be enough for at least a playoff. I know that I play 18 for par. Most of the field did. I don't know that Kristen ever even went for it. And so I kind of knew it had to happen between holes 15 and 17. I had to at least get, 2 of those birdies to even have a chance. But, we both park hole 15. So I'm like, okay, I'm still 2 strokes back. I have a look on hole 16, but it's just not quite close enough and obstructed. So again, I'm still 2 strokes back. You can never kind of plan for what happened on hole 17, but I mean, to be fair, the day before I took a bogey, after missing a putt and rolling away and all of those things. And while it was sort of a different situation, I had to just continue to push. I couldn't just give up. I mean, second place would have been fine. But obviously I would have been devastated. So yeah, I don't know. It was just a weird, weird thing for me to just have to, put my head down and just keep going and not think about what could happen. Just try to do the best that I could on the last few holes. And yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. The putt on 17 was really sick. What did you tell yourself before you stepped up to that putt?
It's funny because a lot of people were like, "Oh my gosh, how did you feel on that putt? Like, what was going through your head? I can't believe like you were able to do that." And honestly, it was easier than it should have been because I had no choice. I had to try to make the putt. So it almost took the stress off of me, just like full send it. If you airball, whatever, at least you gave it a good try. So I felt calmer than I think most people would assume I would feel. And again, in my head, Kristen had already laid up and, she was relatively close. And, in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm still going to be one stroke back and I'm going to have to go into 18.
Probably having to play for birdie.
Yeah. Straying from my game plan. And, so it honestly, it was just like, whatever. I just have to make it and then hope for the best on 18. So yeah, it was crazy. It was something that like, I feel like I've made those clutch putts before. And yeah, I don't know. It was just a wild finish.
Yeah. What did you, when Kristen missed, were you shocked? Like that's a pretty close putt for any player to miss, but particularly one as good as Kristen.
Yeah, I was shocked. My angle was really hard to tell. I was still up the hill, kind of from where I putted from. So it was just a weird angle. I couldn't quite tell what exactly happened. From what I could tell now after looking back, it looked like a decent putt, maybe a little bit right, maybe a little soft. Like those MVP baskets are pretty. Their chains are really heavy. There's 4 levels of them. They're basically like the Chainstar Pro, but with an additional level of chains in that same sort of design. So, all in all, yeah, I was shocked. You can't plan for that. And now I was like, okay, what's going to happen on 18? Like, I don't even, do I have to play for par? Do I just try to see what happens? It was, it never crossed my mind that something like that would happen on 17, given the shots that led up to the end of that hole.
It's difficult for us to look past the recency bias, but I'm sure, athletes have moments like hole 17 stick in their brains for forever. Is that putt like the best putt of your career, given, the circumstances, the danger behind it? If you air that putt, it's tournament over. Like no question about it. Yeah. So do you have another putt that sticks in your mind, or is this one like the best putt you've made in your career?
I'm sure if I really dug deep, I could probably think of something, maybe I'd think of like throw pink on hole 17 that year that I won. I think I made a pretty big windy putt, on a scary green, towards the OB. But, I don't know. I think that certainly I think because of how many spectators were all crammed in that little hallway. And, you can hear it on camera, the roars. It felt like we had, hundreds of people watching us. I guess in this moment, I would say it was probably the best putt of my career.
What did you think of the fan, everything at MVP? I mean, there's a lot, it's pretty rowdy. Obviously there's the 8 holes, but then there's way beyond that. Just like you're on a pretty compact property and you're hearing people just like blow up from some other hole where somebody makes a great shot. Did you like that environment?
Yes. I think I've heard a lot of people kind of in the past have complained about, hearing the 8 holes, from across, all the way across the property. And that could bother certain people. I've always never really been like razzed by background noise. You could hear it on that putt, on all of our putts. I feel like on 17, you could hear the commotion in the background. I think people were approaching 18 or whatever. So I think it's just part of the game. And what I've really, when I hear people potentially complaining about, all of the noise and all of the spectators and the rowdiness, I think about, the flip side of it is, okay, Maple Hill has figured out a way to have a lot of spectators on a wooded course. And what have we all been talking about recently is that we seem to be moving towards more open courses to accommodate spectators and have more people there. But at the same time, people don't want to see wooded courses go away. So whatever recipe the MVP Open and Maple Hill has figured out, we kind of need to hold on to that. If you want wooded courses and you want spectators, they've figured out a way to get that done. They've put in more bleachers on different viewing areas, up by hole 11 and 13. You can kind of sit up there all day. Now hole 14 has kind of become another sort of hole 8 style feel, where you can just, again, hang out there all day if you want. And, hole 18 is just an amazing finish. I saw one post about, of me putting out, and that was when I really realized how many people were watching and just congregated right there. And it just felt just so overwhelming but in just a really cool way. It felt like we were at, the World Championships. Especially thinking the week before at GMC, I felt like, where GMC is held is way out there. It's a lot harder to get a lot of people to come out there. At MVP, you kind of get all of New England. You get a bunch, I met a bunch of New Yorkers come over. So it felt pretty quiet up at GMC, and to come here and have that many people there to watch all weekend was really amazing. And so there is a balance. I think, maybe we need to up the security a little bit. It was easy to kind of just get lost in the crowd. I had to wait a couple times for Tom to get through the spectators to come find me on the tee pad of the next hole. So I think there are still some quirks and stuff that needs to be figured out. But all in all, Maple Hill has figured out a way to get a lot of people there and accommodate a lot of people on a pretty wooded course. So I loved it.
I'm sorry to deal with so many New Yorkers. I mean, those guys are the worst.
Josh, I'm going to send my goons to your house.
I'm a New Yorker, too. So.
Oh, I didn't even realize.
You didn't know that, Josh?
No, I did, and I just forgot.
You know what, Josh? You can drop off. Let's get out there and finish it from here.
Yeah, where are you from?
Middle of nowhere.
Flyover country.
I drive to work in 2 minutes.
You don't drive to work in New York. You take the subway.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I bet it takes me less time to drive to work than it does for you to walk to the subway.
that is possible.
The shot though. So when we were talking, in our post round show, Charlie said that it wasn't even that putt on 17 that was the most impressive shot. You come down the stretch and you've got your third shot. And I said, you've said on this podcast before that you're working on your forehand, that you practice with it, you use it in practice rounds, but you never feel confident enough to pull it out in the tournament. So that changes on a hole that is incredibly punishing, that you need to get up, that you just watched Kristen throw the exact same shot OB. What made you decide that was the game plan, that you were going to pull that off?
I mean, I threw that shot every other round except for one round where I was quite far to the right on that second shot. And I actually split the gap with a backhand putter, but it was the plan. And I had done it 3 other times, and I got on the island every time with it. I did miss one of the putts during one of the rounds, but it just was the plan. And I think it was important for me to get left enough so that it wasn't like, a severe hyzer forehand, because that is something that I don't feel great about. You can even see on that shot that I did throw, it was pretty flat, but thankfully it was a swarm and it was very overstable and it did the work for me. It's cool that I was able to kind of pull that out in such a high pressure situation, because a lot of people don't, including myself, consider me a forehand, specialist by any stretch. But I have the chip sidearm. I have the ability to scramble well. I can throw the anti-flexes way better than I can throw any sort of like hyzer shot. So yeah, I guess it's a cool thing to kind of like take it down with a forehand, but at the end of the day, yeah, it's just like you have to have some level of forehand in order to compete at the highest level. And obviously it's bitten me in the past. Or, we get to a course where you see a lot of my competitors throwing a forehand. And so, there have been many times where I have felt like I lacked a skill set that I now, feel like is, required in order to even win on tour. But, I have 5 wins without it. So whatever.
Okay, I got some stats for you that I just want to get your reaction to. I believe I'll have to pull up the exact numbers here, but head to head against Kristen all time, you're something like 7-40 approximately. Like, where you finish in the standings. 6 of those times when you've finished ahead of her, you've won the tournament outright, now including MVP. Like what do you think that tells you? Like that's obviously there's not very many people who've finished ahead of Kristen 7 times in their career. And to win head to head against her a lot is not something that almost anybody has done. So your thoughts on is it becoming a rivalry?
I don't know. My sponsors have asked me that a couple times. I don't know. I guess maybe when you guys are watching, maybe that feels like it, but I don't know. It's a rivalry is like a weird word. It's like a hard word. And I think if you think in the past to like the Katrina, Paige rivalry, I think that there was a lot more to that than maybe everybody knows. Also the Paul and Ricky rivalry, like I think there's a lot even like off the course that goes into that. And I think that's where maybe Kristen and I differ. It's, and honestly, I mean, I would say I probably have more of a rivalry with Holland, but it's because we hang out and we're friends and we talk smack and, we're always kind of like pushing one another. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would necessarily call it a rivalry. I think that we're both really skilled players. We actually have very similar styles of game. Obviously, she has a more developed forehand than I do, but and a proficient forehand. But I think as far as like distance wise and style of like hyzer flip game and stuff like that, I think we're you can sort of compare us a little bit, but I don't know. Maybe give us another year, but I certainly feel like this year there's obviously been a lot more parity, a lot more people in contention. Again, it wasn't the dominant year that she had last year, which I think we all probably expected. I mean, that was just an incredible year, but yeah, I don't know. I don't consider it a rivalry. I think it's just like we all are elevating our games, and you gotta just be on. And it's not gonna just kind of be a walk in the park.
If the off course antics are what it takes to make a rivalry, if I were to get a local newspaper to reach out to you to do a story, would you throw shade in that newspaper against some of your competitors to help establish that?
It would depend who it is. Like, like,
so you're saying there's a chance, Charlie? We need to get some reporters here.
There's a chance. I just need more of those press conferences at like the auxiliary events to like give you a little more taste.
Yeah, we need that. That was good times. Yeah, when we were on 18. I knew Kristen wasn't going to make that forehand approach. That's not her game.
No, not at
all. So, okay, next one. I just pulled it up. Since the post-COVID season, so 2021 and forward, you've won 13 times for a total of $135,000 in prize money. Obviously, there's a reason you've earned the moniker Big Money Missy. You take another $10,000 down this weekend. So you're in your wins, you are averaging more than $10,000 in prize winnings since 2021. Like this is like a substantial amount of money. Like I know I think I've asked you this before, but like, is there something to that? Do you feel like when the stakes are high and we get to the business end of the season or at the majors that like you literally do play better?
No. I think it's more of like, okay, this season is so long. I've played so many events. When we get to the end of the season, it's really easy to like feel burnt out, whatever, all the things. But for me, it's like, okay, we've made it this far. Like, don't let up now. You can go and relax in 2.5 weeks. Like, you have to just continue to keep going. And maybe that's what's given me a little bit of an edge towards the end of the season. I don't really know, but I think that I'm just an extremely competitive person. And I know you'll hear every disc golfer say that, but I really, really am in almost everything that I do. And I'm also pretty stubborn, and I put a lot of like pride and even kind of pressure on myself to like, I'm not getting any younger. I'm one of the older people on tour that's still touring. And so, I kind of want to like prove to myself that it doesn't matter that I'm older than everybody else or who, whatever, but, I can do this. I can hang with the young people. And I'm a veteran now. I've been a veteran for a couple of years now, but yeah, I think it's more of a pride thing. And I'm grateful for everything that I've accomplished and everything that I've been given and what I've earned. And, I made this decision a long time ago to go on tour, and I gave up a lot of very steady income and living situations to do this. And so, I'm just not one to like, just kind of be okay with what's happening. I still want to try to be the best and try to win. And, so yeah, I think it's just more of a determination and a mindset and, understanding that I've made this decision to do this for a living. So do it 100% or get out of here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The top 4 players in the Pro Tour standings, you, of course, Holland, Kristen, Owen, nobody under the age of, I think maybe Holland is 29, almost 30. So in MPO, we're seeing like 19-year-olds winning these tournaments like every week. And obviously some of that is just Gannon himself. But generally like we've seen a new generation kind of take over in terms of the winning. And in FPO, that's not really happening. We're seeing the veterans kind of staking the claim. I mean, calling Holland a veteran is maybe a little bit questionable because of when she started playing, but obviously we're not seeing the Ellie Mittlings or these 20-year-olds winning. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I think it's more of I kind of want to say it's like a confidence thing. I don't know if it's just being a woman or whatever. Like, I think it's really easy to kind of like tell yourself you're not good enough or, not believe 100% that you can, win against the Kristens and the Owens and the Missies of the world. But like, I honestly, I really just don't know. I think that, we still see a pretty good gap between, the finishing scores of the top FPO players, again, given the people that we do typically see on top, as you were alluding to. It's hard to say. I'm just not really sure how to answer that question. And, it's definitely a different thing to the MPO side. Now, granted, Gannon has basically only ever played disc golf in his entire life since he was a really young pup. So like, he kind of has that veteran feel, even though he's younger because he's been playing for so long. And so I think on the FPO side, I feel like you find more of us have had, didn't pick up the sport until later in life or, like, I mean, even myself and even Kristen and Owen, we didn't pick up the sport until, into our 20s, I believe, mid to late 20s, if I can recall. So yeah, it's cool. I don't know. It is definitely an interesting, difference between the FPO and MPO. And I think that give it time, Eliezra, she'll refine, she'll figure out the touch and those other players that kind of have just come onto the scene, they'll figure it out. It's just maybe it's going to take a little longer.
The Pro Tour has worked to elevate this tournament by giving it the designation of a playoff event. Mm-hmm. And the playoff designation is still a little bit weird to me. Especially at GMC, they don't really make very aggressive cuts to the field. Basically, if you tour, you're good enough to get in. So it feels a little bit odd. But at the same time, Maple Hill, obviously, MVP Open, one of the most historic and storied tournaments in our sport. Mm-hmm. So it's to me got like, it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit hard to kind of wrap my head around where this tournament ranks in terms of importance. But you also have a couple other tournaments that I think are nice, that'll help give some nice benchmarks. You've won a major this season, obviously. Mm-hmm. You've also won Throw Pink, which is sort of a major, but also only an A tier. And so another kind of awkward sitting tournament. Where does this win rank in some of your other victories?
I would probably put it, I mean, I don't think I could, put it below or put it above my major win, because that's obviously a milestone that many of us are always looking to hit. But I would put it at maybe number 2. I think it's just because I've been going to that event since I started touring in 2018 and kind of saw, the old, the original Pro Tour and then how it evolved into the new Pro Tour. And, so I think that's why it holds a lot of weight for me, because of how many times I've been there, how many times I've played that course. And, again, the overall history of that event and just watching all of the people that I looked up to jumping in that pond, those little things that kind of just are in my mind. And I've said I've always wanted to be able to, I've always wanted to jump in that pond. No, even if most people don't want to jump in the pond, in the grand scheme, I've always wanted to do that. And so, I'd put it up there near second, because I do think that Throw Pink was treated like a major. Again, everybody was confused on whether or not I won a major after that. It was all over the place, and I kind of had to tell people, no, I'm not a major winner. So it's right in that like second spot, I would say. But I agree. I think that the playoff designation is funny. I think it's just a way to kind of shake things up at the end of the year. So the way to make it different is to have to give it a higher weight, and sort of just like get a little bit more movement before the Pro Tour Championships. So yeah, I don't know. They're trying to figure out how to make that all work out.
All right, two tournaments left. Throw Pink, Pro Tour Championship, where obviously you will start with a 10 under score to kick off round 1.
I think, Charlie, isn't it 6 in FPO?
No, I don't think so.
I think it is 10.
It's 10.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah,
I thought it was less on the FPO side.
Well, no, they changed the buckets for lower scores.
Okay, that's what it is.
10.
Still starts at 10. Okay, my bad.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on the upcoming events? And we do have big money on the line.
I think obviously I've won both of those events in the past, so I feel like I have a really good shot at winning them this year. Again, that's always the goal. What are we here for? yeah, I always look forward to these last two events. You know, we get to kind of stay in one spot for the last stretch of the year, which is nice to kind of settle in and just be there for two of the bigger events of the year. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to both of them. Obviously, we're playing at Nevin again, which has already treated me very well in the past. And so, you know, I want to make the most of it, given that we're not going to be here next year. We'll be back out in Virginia. You know, that's the plan at least. So yeah, I want to make the most of it. I want to, you know, carry what I've accomplished here at MVP, playing in the woods and playing really well. And hopefully I can bring that over to Nevin. But first we have to get through, Winthrop. And so a pretty different style of golf. And again, a course that I feel pretty comfortable at. So we'll see how it all shakes out, but I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm going to give it my all.
Awesome. Well, good luck the rest of the way. Congrats once again on the MVP win, and we'll see you in Rock Hill.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Missy Gannon with us here on the Upshot. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Upshot. Great to have Missy with us once again. Josh, always candid. Do you feel like Missy and Kristen have a rivalry at this point?
It's just so hard to call a rivalry when the score's 7-40. Like I get that, you know, the times that Missy takes it, she wins, but it's very dominant. It is very dominant for Kristen.
It's 7:45, by the way.
7:45.
I just looked up the official numbers.
Okay, it is 7:45. Okay, let me. I'm curious what Ricky and Paul's head-to-head is. We haven't looked at this in a while, and this.
I got you.
Okay.
It is. Macbeth leads 103 quote unquote wins, right? Finished ahead of Ricky.
Yep.
To 96 with 5 ties. 62 outright wins for Macbeth, 47 outright wins for Ricky. They have almost identical top 10 percentages, 86.3 for Macbeth, 85.8 for Ricky. But obviously the numbers have been narrowing this season.
Right. Well, and the other thing is, like, what, the wins are 60% or so, and you look at Missy, you know, Kristen's got 22 wins to Missy's 6.
Mm-hmm.
And that in their head-to-head. And so, unfortunately, I think Missy spent too much time as part of the committee to say that this is a full-blown rivalry between them right now. And I agree with Missy. Like, I would prefer some off-course beef as well. You know, Paul helped.
She has the opportunity to start the beef anytime she wants.
She does. I mean it. You want a reporter who will, so you can say that when it comes down the stretch, you expect Kristen to blow it. Like, you say a date and time, and I will find somebody.
Oh my gosh, good stuff. Yeah, but you know what? Sometimes it's about, like, what happens on the course.
Yeah,
and you know, that there's a lot of camaraderie at the top of FPO right now.
There is
in a way that there didn't used to be.
Yeah,
Katrina Allen creates a little friction. All right, that is going to do it for today's show. It was a big one. Thank you for being with us. We're going to break all the Pro Tour Championship stuff down and take a look at who's in and who's out from last year, and more on next week's show. We'll probably take some mail as well, so get your thoughts in to us anytime. Upshot@ultiworld.com is the way to reach us. And hey, get yourself a subscription. Check out our Rapid Reacts. We're doing an extra one this week. We are going to be comparing current players to NBA players. This has been a long-standing request, and we're finally getting around to it. So maybe we'll have some WNBA comps too, because people have been paying a little more attention. Who's the Caitlin Clark of FPO? We'll have to think about that one. So join up, discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. join the Discord. It's the best place to talk disc golf on the internet. I think that's like very clear at this point.
Yeah.
We love having everybody in there and chatting with lots of great people in the industry and just fans. So we hope you join us as well. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long. We'll talk to you Thursday right here on The Upshot.